Hey, what's up everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today we're going to make a quick video, just kind of like a response to the video I uploaded earlier this week about the play boosters and the whole new stance. I read some comments of that video. A lot of people were kind of giving me feedback, so really appreciate it. Thank you guys for the engagement. I mean, one of the things that always surprises me the most is the kind of people that comment on my videos that have like, put a lot of really great thought, and they give me like paragraphs to kind of go through about what they believe in and why they believe in it. It's really good just to kind of see some new perspective. I will have to say though, there's some comments I read that I definitely felt like were just maybe, again, they're different than my perspective, and I want to spend some time today to kind of address that, right? So the first thing was around like Play Booster being really great for the market and really great for kind of like Magic as a whole, right? I think it really depends on different perspectives. I know that some people are saying this because they think that nobody really cares about the actual draft or limited or sealed formats of Magic, where you would play with booster packs, not just open them for cards. I think, and this is where I could be wrong, but from local stores where I play at, from local stores where I'm, kind of like my local community, what I see are people still very into draft. I mean, draft still seems to me like a very popular format that a lot of stores support and the players love it. And so it would be very strange to me that like where it's true where majority of the players don't want to have this format anymore. So, obviously with Wizards of the Coast kind of going into this play booster route, it does seem that way. It does seem like they want to support the people kind of like want to open the cards for packs more than they want to support the people who are using them for drafting. It's in a sense like on the back end, they want to save some money because again, it makes their production process much simpler. But also on the front end, they can charge a little bit more for the booster boxes, force the drafters to now pay a higher price for the same thing essentially. And then of course, like, basically pushing for this whole like open the cards, get really good stuff, right? So there's that. The second comment that I saw was how play boosters aren't really going to affect draft, right? And I would argue heavily that I think it's really going to affect drafting. So the reason I say that is because as a person who actually plays, I don't know if I play quite a bit of draft, but it's one of the few formats I do play and enjoy. I will say the variance, one of the reasons why drafting works the way it does is because we see a lot of commons and uncommons, right? And so those cards kind of shaped our deck. The rares are more like of like, I don't know, like a topping to our deck, right? Sometimes you get a good rare or mythic rare that can shape how your deck kind of goes. But by and large, you're not hoping for any specific rare or mythic rare. That's not really the point of a draft. The draft essentially for a lot of drafters is to build a deck that kind of like fuels an engine. And if you want to build a deck that feels like a very common engine, then you're going to need ways to kind of consistently do that. And that's really done through commons and uncommons way more than a rare or mythic rare. The other problem with a lot of rare, mythic rare cards is there are cards that are obviously traps, meaning they're built in a way where they're not supported by the set, right? So for example, let's say like Eldraine has I guess Wilds of Eldraine, I don't know much about. So let's talk about, let's say, Lord of the Rings, right? And there's like, for example, Ring Bearer mechanic, right? So obviously that's supported by the set, but maybe there's like another mechanic that says something like, for non-legendaries, something's happened, right? And it may look like, oh, we can play like a really cool non-legendary deck, but maybe it's not supported very well by that set. That card could be built for constructed purposes for other decks. It could be built for commander. It could be built for many, many other different reasons other than the draft experience, right? So there's that. Number two reasons, there's just going to be cards that are for constructed period, right? So a lot of times when we draft, decks, some of the cards that kind of get passed around more often are going to be the dual lands, simply because if you're not in that lane, I'm never going to draft a dual land to then choose my colors. That's not really meaningful. What I'm going to draft instead is like cards or certain colors. And those things, if on the second or third pack I still see that dual land that can support me, then that's when I pick those rares up. but I wouldn't initially go pick a dual land and lock myself into a color. Now, barring anybody who's rare drafting, obviously. And it could be that these dual lands are actually kind of expensive. Let's imagine you have shock lands or some of the triome type of things. Those kind of things could again like be quite expensive as cards themselves, but it's not really something that a drafter who's really trying to, like, for example, build a good deck that's going to win are looking for. And that's another one of those like conflicts that I think are going to be a problem, right? So now back to why having a play booster with 14 cards is really problematic is that, instead of before where you would see more common uncommons, you're going to see maybe even some rares more frequently now too. And this is where it gets tricky because I think like rares were never designed that way. Now, of course, Wizards of the Coast can redesign the whole Magic thing where common and uncommons are kind of like the same. They're just commons. And the rares become more like the uncommons, and the true rares are the mythic rares, right? And that's where it could actually change a lot of how drafting works in the future. But my inkling is that's not going to come, at least for the first couple years of us doing this. And again, essentially, like, the only reason why we even have play boosters really is just for cost reduction, in my opinion, right? On the back end, they can reduce costs. On the front end, they can make more money per booster. It's kind of like a win-win scenario for them. They still have their super premium collector's booster that they're going to sell to those kind of players who want that. But by and large, like, this is the way it's going to be. So like, that's why I think, play booster is actually really bad for drafting. Okay, so the next question is really around this kind of concept of like, what happened to draft? Could there have been a better solution? I think so too. I think some of the people were really concerned about this. Like, why was the solution that to combine set and draft boosters into play booster? I mean, I think a lot of people do enjoy the fact that we're simplifying the product lines. There's not going to be set booster and draft boosters. I personally also think that's a good idea in general. But of course, it's going to come at an increase of price. And it kind of forces, again, players who weren't going to buy set boosters now to purchase set boosters to draft with them. Could the other solution, an alternative to what has actually happened, have been to create a set booster or a kind of like a set booster-esque thing for pack opening, separate from a draft experience, right? Essentially, what if they pushed the set booster idea more into the collector's booster, lower the price of the collector's booster down a little bit, right? And then had a very cost-efficient draft booster, meaning like, think like draft chaff, right? Things that are only useful for on draft. Most drafters, once they finish drafting, they just throw these cards away. Those kind of cards are in a draft booster box. And that booster box is meant purely for drafting. They're not going to have very expensive cards, right? That's not the expectation. But the price is going to be very good. Well, let's talk like, imagine like $50 for the booster box, or even less, retail at release, right? It could even be lower at a later point. And it's really just meant for drafting. Could Wizards of the Coast have done this? I think so. I think one of the challenges with them doing this, of course, is now there's a lower price entry, and that may make a lot of people buy those cards instead of buying like the more premium tier, right? And that's where like you start segregating the market in a way that they don't really want, because they know there's going to be people buying this like draft product instead of buying the premium tier stuff, because again, it's more enticing. And like, you don't really want to, as a business, usually lower prices like at a later point or long term, because it makes your product more like, inferior. And so you always want to kind of like slightly increase price. Think about what happened with iPhones. If you remember, when the first iPhone came out, we always thought it was ridiculous that it's like $600, right? But nowadays, like, iPhones are like $1,500 and nobody even bats an eye, right? So, your base model for iPhone is going to run you like $800. And that's like the really crappy, like, basically you don't even want to be seen with this thing, and it's going to cost you $800. And of course, you want to buy like the Pros or the Max or whatever, you're looking at like a lot more. And that's kind of like that, inflation of pricing that a lot of companies want with their products, because it makes it look more premium. So that's, I think, the one reason why this drafter paradise version of the collective or of the product does not exist. Because essentially, it's not, it's kind of like an afterthought for people who want to draft. Now, if you're a true drafter and you really want those things, I think it's not all lost, because I suspect now more than ever that more people on eBay or whatever are going to sell you repacks, right? And the repacks are basically just that. So think like they're going to put all the cards back in the pack that they didn't want, not the like hits, whatever, and sell it to you at a much like lower price. Now, of course, it's not going to be a sealed pack. It doesn't have that same feel. But if you're a pure drafter, I mean, I don't see why this is not a good alternative. And usually you can get these things for like, I think 25, 30 bucks for a whole booster box, right? And so you can take 30 bucks and really have a great time drafting with your friends. The only issue, of course, is you won't have like really good cards because those are already taken. So I guess the test of the market will be whether these repacks are going to be more popular with people who are, again, just for drafting. I'm not saying if you're like opening for special cards that you want the repacks. I'm curious why a drafter would not want this product. And that, of course, would dictate why maybe Wizard of the Coast decided this is not a product they want to sell directly from them. So that's by and large like my comments on that. I think that's going to be it for this video. In general, I think really good reception on the Play Booster. I think it got a lot of people to start thinking about things. And realistically, it's just the money. Like all of it is about money. All of it is about Wizard of the Coast like making more money, and that's really what they care about. The rest of it doesn't really matter. So it is what it is. But I just gotta say, like, we gotta stay classy, stay classy.